look at the form. And we got stronger, the more this anti-colonialism will express itself. Now, anti-colonialism is nothing but anti-capitalism, because colonialism is nothing but an offshoot, an aspect of capitalism. Therefore, if you're anti-colonial, you must be anti-capitalist, if you're logical in your thinking, of course, and your actions. Some people are not, but we are speaking of logical people here. Yes. If you're anti-capitalist, then you must be socialist. Capitalism cannot unite Africa. Africa has to be united by socialism. Now, there's a lot of confusion here on this question of capitalism and socialism. Just recently, a young man said to me, but socialism died. I said, it did? He said, you didn't hear about it? I said, I missed the funeral. Of course, he spoke about the betrayals that occurred in the East. You must not let capitalism confuse your thinking. This is a struggle which Pan-Africanism takes on. We struggle against imperialism in the ideological arena because many people think that capitalism just wants to exploit your labor. It wants to confuse your thinking and make you think just like them. And this is where the real fight occurs. So therefore, this struggle of confusing the thinking, I told the man, I said, you're talking nonsense. Socialism cannot disappear. It cannot die. He said, yes, it can. I said, no. He said, how do you say that? I said, well, you are judging socialism by socialists. You don't do that. He said, I've never heard such nonsense. If you don't judge socialism by socialists, what do you judge it by? I say, you judge it by its principles. Every system is judged by its principles, never its adherence. So he still saw confusion. He said, you're just talking double talk. I said, okay, do you judge Christianity by Christians? So we must not be confused here. Socialism doesn't fall because of betrayal. No system does. The person who betrays themselves goes to the mud, but the system, with its eternal principles, keep marching on. If a system fell because of betrayal, Christianity would have been finished with Judas. At least Judas had the dignity to hang himself. Some of these who betray socialism don't have that dignity. Gorbachev still runs around speaking and picking up 30 pieces of silver everywhere. So socialism is an economic system, and they can.
What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome back to Nick at Night. It's great to be back. Man, wouldn't it be great if we still had black leaders like Kwame Ture instead of a Jim Clyburn? What happened to the days of where our culture was rooted in black radical thought? We went from this to the fact that we have black churches that are trying to silence people protesting against genocide. We have black churches, and this has been my critique for quite some time. I warned you guys about these people. The black churches went from the central hub of organizing during the civil rights movement in the same way that the black community was captured by neoliberalism and the Democrats. The same thing happened to the black church. And we see the highest levels of betrayal. We see church leaders. We see people who are leaders in their community mislead the people who follow their faith, the people who have faith in their religious leaders. And this is what make what the black church does so disgusting. People trust the black church. They congregate here. There are a lot of people who follow their direction. And now we have these black pastors who are corrupt, who part of the elite bourgeoisie capitalist class, who friends with these black politicians, and they sell out our community to these people. The same way that you see the Black Congressional Caucus, the same way you see James Lewis, Jim Clyburn, all these people sell our tradition. That happens on a grand scale on the black church. So we've been having this problem with Biden, where Biden is being destroyed by Trump in the polls because we are seeing the Biden coalition fall apart. We had Barack Obama that came out and he was warning people about this fractured coalition, warning that Trump's going to come back. And this is an argument I use all the time. Doesn't that expose the lies that came from Trump derangement syndrome? According to them, Trump was such a dangerous threat, we have to do everything they can to stop him. Meanwhile, Joe Biden is guaranteeing the election of Trump because his loyalty with Israel is so strong. If Donald Trump is such a threat, as you guys laid out, wouldn't you guys do everything possible to keep your coalition together and give the working class everything they need so they will be more inclined to vote for you, so you can quote unquote save your democracy? The fact that they are willing to sacrifice the election to Donald Trump in order to please their AIPAC donors, that alone exposes the fact that Biden allows student debt relief to come back, the fact that they're funding Nazis in Ukraine, the fact they're doing the stuff that they know will cost them votes. That shows their hand that they never really believed that Donald Trump was such a threat they claimed he would. Because if Donald Trump was such a country-shattering threat to democracy, they would make some class sacrifices. They would say, yeah, there's some economic things we disagree with. There are a lot of foreign policy things we disagree with, but we must sacrifice things for the workers. We must give the working class more in order to prevent the fall of our democracy. But they don't do that, which shows you they don't really view Trump as a threat. So as we had historic amount of Black people leave the Democratic Party, you had the Democratic Party fund Cop City. You had Joe Biden take COVID relief money and give it to the police. You have Joe Biden fund Nazis in Ukraine, and now they're funding the genocide and apartheid in Gaza, where Black people do not fuck with. So because of that, we've been reporting on this, that Joe Biden coalition is falling apart. Who is this coalition? The hardcore evangelical Zionists, the right-wing culture warriors, they believe that Joe Biden is like secret Hamas. Everyone who actually live in reality, they will never support this monster. You know the guy, Joe Biden, Genocide Joe, who said he saw 40 beheaded babies? You know the story that was fake? That was confirmed fake by the IDF? Joe Biden used his clout as president of the United States, his authority, to lend credence to this fake story to justify genocide by saying he saw 40 beheaded babies. There's many things that Joe Biden did that was impeachable. That would be one of them. Let's look at this. This is Jim Clyburn, who's going to be very relevant to this story. The kingmaker of South Carolina. Jim Clyburn very concerned over Black voters. And they have a plan for that. Because as support that Black Americans have for Joe Biden fall because of the genocide of Palestinians, instead of the Black leaders coming in, talking to Democrats, using their sway, their clout, instead of using that to get material gains for Black people, instead of saying, you guys have greatly disappointed me and my coalition, we demand you do more for us or you will lose. That would be a positive. That is not what Jim Clyburn said. In an interview he gave, he said that his criticism is not that Joe Biden didn't meet his expectations and demands. The criticism is that Joe Biden wasn't good at messaging. He wasn't good at messaging what he did for the Black community. We'll show you guys the role of these people. They're not only here to not advocate for our demands, they're here to shield and cover for our very enemy. I'll just read a little bit. Clyburn, I'm very concerned about Biden's standing with Black voters. Now, the South Carolina Democrat joins the chorus of Democrats getting antsy with the states of the race. James Clyburn said on Sunday that he was very concerned about President Joe Biden standing with Black voters as the general election nears. The South Carolina Democrat, making an appearance on CNN State of the Union, said he had spoken to the president about his fears, which were based around the failure of the White House to translate its legislative accomplishments into positive voter sentiment. You guys see how it wasn't based on the fact that Joe Biden did nothing for Black people and he funded the genocide and their party is continuing to fund Cop City. That's not the problem. The problem is that we're not doing a good job tricking Black people anymore. So in order to trick black people into thinking that Joe Biden is for the Democratic Party, here comes the black church to do what they always do, using what Marx and some other socialists call the opiate of the masses to trick black people to continue to vote for the president. So this is what they do. They invite these white politicians who never ever show up to our community ever before. The black leaders use their clout. They are corrupt. They invite these white politicians into our spaces so they can lie to our faces. Here, Joe Biden, they essentially giving a campaign speech at Mother Emanuel AME Church in South Carolina. And they are just covering for a genocidal anti-black maniac. Biden denounces poison of white supremacy at Mother Emanuel. So these black leaders are giving a platform to a president that is committing a genocide right now. To the segregationists that say he didn't want his kids to grow up in a racial jungle. The guy who funded Nazis in Ukraine. Black leaders are now giving him the aura of credibility to say he's the answer of white supremacy. Let's listen to this garbage. Oh, let me turn this up.
Survivors invited us on June 17, 2015. The beautiful souls, five survivors, invited a stranger into this church to pray with them. The word of God was pierced by bullets and hate, of rage, propelled by not just gunpowder, but by a poison. Poison that's for too long haunted this nation. What is that poison? White supremacy. Oh, it is. It's a poison. Throughout our history, it's ripped this nation apart. It has no place in America. Not today, tomorrow, or ever. From that day, this nation saw this congregation, this community, demonstrate one of the greatest acts of strength I have ever seen. I mean it sincerely, from the bottom of the act of forgiveness, the act of grace. It was as President Obama sang from here, Amazing Grace. It changed hearts. You did something that may not have happened but for your courage. You brought down the Confederate flag in South Carolina. You brought it down. No, you did. And you helped the nation heal. You showed what America can overcome.
There have been 1,000 children that had been amputated in Gaza without anesthesia. The worst horror that you can imagine. The Biden administration, still to this day, despite the fact that we have the OIC, you have Turkey, you have Malaysia, you have Hungary, you have all these countries coming out for genocide, and Biden administration is saying that there is no evidence that Israel's committing war crimes, as the death of children is around 12,000 right now. But the black leaders in the black church is inviting this butcher on to rehabilitate his image. Do you guys see the problem here? And do you guys see why I had early distrust for the black church very early on? God, let alone me not talking about all the financial scandals they had. You had a lot of these black pastors and black church leaders that go to school in elite academia, become part of organizations and mingle with the politicians, and then they go back to their community and do propaganda on behalf of these same people who do not represent the interest of their community. The biggest sellouts that there possibly can be. And if you think I am being too harsh on the Mother Emanuel AME Church, where I believe that's where Dylan Roof, there was a massacre there. So that's what makes it so disgusting. The fact that the church was the spot of a horrific massacre, but the church is shielding someone who is committing a genocide. And now you have liberals that are melting down. They try to find any way to turn these numbers against, back in Joe Biden's favor, I should say, because the genocide in Gaza, his policies regarding Israel shatter his coalition. So they planted the fake Hamas rape stories first. That was the first beta testing into how to get the left-wing liberal feminists back. So now they see this opportunity with, and we're going to cover Joe Biden's speech being protested. And Joe Biden should never know a moment of peace, and this should be common. So liberals are upset at this. Look at this. Ahead of Biden's arrival, anticipating that there might be protests, the pastor of Mother Emanuel specifically asked for people attending to show respect for the church by not interrupting. So the church anticipating there be protests, so they know they're inviting a scumbag to speak at their church. They know they are inviting someone who is committing a genocide. They know they are inviting someone who is deeply unpopular among black voters. Black voters are leaving the Democratic Party. You just saw how Jim Clyburn said he has concerns with black voters in the Democratic Party upcoming election. So this black church, knowing this, invite this person on so they can do propaganda for Joe Biden, and then they ask people not to protest. Sellouts of the highest order. Now, the funny thing is, you see the liberal breakdown over this because they're trying to shield Biden over this disaster. Liberals still don't know what to come. This is just the beginning. 2024 is going to be hell for Democrats. I've never seen this bad for them. The genocide is waking people up. So this is the clip that have A1 reaction. I'm going to show you guys how Democrats are trying to twist this into their favor. But let's watch this video.
You really care about the lives lost here? You should honor the lives lost and call for a ceasefire in Palestine. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
That's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's all right.
So you have a speaker at your church that is a historic butcher, someone who is funding a genocide. Protesters are calling him out and calling for a ceasefire in a church where people were slaughtered, and you guys are demanding 4 more years for this genocidal maniac. These people are trying to silence the protest of people calling out this president for genocide, and they chant 4 more years. I sincerely say this with every ounce of my heart. Fuck every single one of those people that started chanting 4 more years. And fuck every single person that is trying to use the black community to shield Joe Biden as he's committing a genocide. These are the biggest sellouts. These people's minds are so colonized. They're chanting 4 more years at a church in response of a president being called out for genocide. Literally the biggest sellouts you can possibly see. You guys see the problem I have with the black bourgeoisie class, the black capitalist class, the black church that enabled this garbage? So they should be calling Joe Biden out for being complicit with genocide. Instead, that's why my title is not clickbait. This is not me trying to be defamatory. This is quite literally the Black church covering for Joe Biden as he committed genocide. Israel is bombing churches in Gaza, killing nuns and Christians, but the Black church is here to side with the Democrats to provide cover for Joe Biden. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine while we support genocide. This is a joke, man. And now you have, and this is textbook lip shit that I'm about to show you here. Because this is the tweet I showed you earlier, where liberals are saying that the church congregation asked people not to protest a genocidal maniac. The response to that is, you guys can go fuck off. You know when the best time to protest someone who's committing genocide, someone who is responsible for the death of 12,000 children? Every single time they are seen in public. You want to know where the best place to protest someone who is funding and is complicit with a genocide? A church. If there's any place to protest someone, it's in a church. And look how the propagandists lie. This person says both protesters who interrupted at the historic Black church were white. Well, for one, anyone who have eyes can see that this is a lie. So you guys see how the first instinct of a liberal is to go to identity politics to defend genocide and imperialism. These are the people who protest them. And they had the foresight, knowing that liberals are scummy, identity politics, weaponizing, genocidal maniacs, to bring, the people that are standing up against the genocide for the most part, a Black woman here. Black and brown people. So you guys see the lie. They said it was only white people that were protesting here, but it's clearly Black people doing it here. Here's another liberal, because liberals was in shambles over this, because I think a few of them who was in denial over what's going to happen in 2024, they're now realizing that this is a thing. Democrats underestimated how much people in modern times will allow the genocide that we all can see. Whether you guys want to excuse these people or not, in the 1940s, many Americans claim that they had no idea the Holocaust was going on. Many people in Europe had no idea the Holocaust was going on, which is honestly pretty plausible, considering the way the control of information was back then, how limited the information was back then. But we don't have the same excuse. We are seeing a genocide being live streamed. We are seeing fascist genocidal IDF soldiers literally recording TikToks of them and going on and bragging about how many Palestinian children they killed. This being broadcast to the world, so Europeans and white America, they don't have the excuse that many people in the 40s did. When many people was asked why America didn't go into World War II earlier, that is what they said. Many Americans wasn't into World War II because they didn't know what was going on with the Holocaust. No excuse for modern times. So because more people know this, and now there's this wave of nonstop protests that are going to hit Biden, and I'm thinking of going to Chicago during the convention, because there's going to be a massive police state crackdown of like we never seen before, because the DNC convention is going to burn. You guys understand? Do you guys understand? Like, the abandoned Biden movement already had their eyes set on Chicago. Every single activist already had their eyes set on the DNC convention. Shit is going to go down in Chicago. I am telling you guys right now, or you're hearing it here first. Stay tuned, because the police state in defense of Zionism definitely going to go after all these people. here are the liberals trying to spin this story. White activists picketing at a black church. Once again, you guys see how they weaponize identity politics? These are the liberal scum that we hate. Take advantage of ignorant people who don't know better, who want to fight for racial justice. And they use racial justice in order to shield for genocide in an imperialist, capitalist, Democratic Party. White activists, not true, some of them was white, but there wasn't all white. White activists picketing at a church, black church, to protest the president's foreign policy really encapsulates why the far left will never actually get power. They're so deeply self-righteous that they don't even try to avoid alienating people. Hey, VJ, you want to know how you alienate people? When you fund a genocide and you support a president that's currently lying on behalf and shielding the genocidal Israeli government. And it is not us that's out of touch. The majority of Democrats want a ceasefire. When you look at the polls, most polls show that Democrats want a ceasefire. You want to know who don't want a ceasefire? Every single member at that black church and the people who invited them. They are in the minority. They are the sellouts. And they as well should feel no peace. Anyone who support this party should feel no peace. So this is, and it get worse. It get worse. You have Simone Sanders. I was clipping all these people on Twitter. One of them blocked me. Let's see if I can find a screenshot. I got a screenshot. This was the immediate talking point that came out. And I noticed that after they attempted this garbage talking point, they scaled back because they were getting dragged too hard. Here's Simone Sanders, one of the most notorious sellouts of this generation. Mother Emanuel AME is hallowed ground in the AME church community and in Charleston especially. So pause here. The fact that it's supposed to be so sacred and hallowed ground, all that bullshit, isn't that why you don't invite someone who support a genocide to speak? Considering the history of the church and the massacre that they suffer from, this is not the place you invite them to a church to speak. They're not the place you invite a white politician that diverse from a community to speak. She said the shock of the people in the crowd at protesters yelling out while President Biden was speaking from the pulpit cannot be overstated. I too couldn't believe it. My answer is fuck every single one of those people. They are the extreme minority. You guys understand that even United States allies are rebuking the United States. The majority of the world population is calling for a ceasefire. The majority of the Democratic Party is calling for a ceasefire. 70% of black voters, according to polls, is calling for a ceasefire. But we supposed to care about the opinions of people who just want access to the president, to the black church who sold out our people, who's currently selling out the Palestinians. They sold out black people so much, they're now looking to sell out people overseas as well. And for one, I don't believe you. We already know there are DNC plans that probably started the former year chant. But I'm sure people were just there looking at the event. And if you're a sellout to our community, supporting these sellout politicians, maybe you should never know peace. So this is what I said to Simone Sanders, because I was clipping these people and it's been very fun. We got almost a good ratio on her. Simone got racial to death on this tweet. I got like 3.5 thousand likes on this one. I replied to Simone Sanders' tweet. I said, the black church continues to sell its people out to genocidal pro-police Democratic Party. Fuck you and anyone using black people as a shield to commit genocide. There's no civil way to go about this. If you use my community, if you use identity politics and you bastardize the real racial struggle that we have to deal with in order to shield for the most racist people on the planet, the Israelis, you are a scumbag of the highest order, and 3,500 people on her timeline agree with me. This person blocked me but I want to show you guys the messaging coming from the black capitalist class, the biggest sellouts in the world. The people that I take it upon myself to call out, my first ever op-ed was calling out our community, the Barack Obama supporter, the black neoliberalism, the black capitalists, the black materialism. We got more black millionaires than ever. Racial income inequality worse than ever. More black poverty. 1 out of 3 black people suffer from medical debt. We have the highest rate of homelessness because they sold us out. Here's another one of these people who just wanted access to Biden and wanted to sell out black people. And man, I'm not even religious, man. If I was religious, I know some people are like, well, nigga, you're an asshole. No, if I was religious, I would be even more pissed. Imagine if you're a Dr. Cornel West style person, if you're legitimately religious and they're using your religion. These sellouts are using your connection to Jesus Christ to justify a genocide. I would be more upset. I would be more upset if I was religious. This person said, you do not, I repeat, you do not run up on Joe Biden in a black church with your protest. I am beyond livid. That was probably shaking too. Black Karenism. Black Karenism, they are using the sanctity of the black church to shield politicians. So Joe Biden, who is suffering in the polls with black voters, the black church look at Joe Biden and says, hey, we know you're being protested a lot. Hey, you want to hide here in the church? We're willing to shield you, and we're willing to hide you in the church where it's sacred and people will be scared to protest here. What's more disgusting than this? I know a lot of people will get upset when I criticize white America. I get it. A lot of people get really upset. But you guys see how hard I go on my community too? I go harder at the sellouts. I go harder at these coons and Uncle Toms who sell our community out. Every single one of those people that was saying 4 more years, shame on them. Now let's get to my second segment because we cover how actually, I want to show you guys. I want to show you guys Sabby and Finney. This is our previous RBN sister. We're still in community with her. I got a lot of respect and love for the work that Finney does. So this backfired very badly for the Simone Sanders because they tried to get ahead of this story by trying to claim the protesters was white and racist. That didn't work. By claiming these people are sacrificing sacred ground. And then the people coming out and chanting 4 more years, that was so disgusting. That was so disgusting. So I'm going to let my sister Finney take it from here. My RBN sister Finney. I want to show her reaction.
So let me get this shit straight. Y'all are more upset with protesters than y'all are with the genocidal segregationist war criminal. Is that what I'm getting straight here? Y'all are more upset with the protesters interrupting said genocidal white supremacist segregationist war criminal than y'all are about the fact that said white supremacist genocidal war criminal, and he's a segregationist, is funding and participating in genocide. Because let us not forget, U.S. troops are on the ground in Gaza. Yeah. So you're telling me that the black church that had the segregationist, white supremacist war criminal who was participating in genocide at their pulpit, they had him at their pulpit. And that isn't something to be more upset about? Y'all motherfuckers chanted 4 more years over demands to stop genocide? Do y'all understand how insane that is? And I saw this post by Abby Martin talking about the imaginary state and how watching them methodically commit war crimes every day is like watching a mass shooter do a school shooting, live streaming themselves, and the police never come. And that is exactly what this feels like. And you liberals are Alex Jones right now. Sick.
Brother Malcolm tried to warn everyone. We warn you guys what liberals would do. what white liberals would do, what the black misleadership class would do. They will quickly use their clout in order to sell out our community to prop up the most violent people. The anger you see from Afeni, the anger that we all should be feeling. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna pull up the Sabby. Sabby was on the Hill. She was talking about this as well. Big shout out to the Hill that has Sabby on, who has Sabby on a lot. Sabby kills it.
He has
Man, I'm trying to get on that Sabby Sab shit. I think she had like 2,300 people watching her today. It's crazy, man. It's crazy because she go on the Hill and Sabby slays it every damn time. That's one of my victims here on the right. Robbie Suave, if you guys don't know, tried to debate me on communism in Venezuela. It didn't really go well for him, and that was the one and only time that you see me on the Hill. But I appreciate, and big shout out to Bree for continuing to put Sabby on the Hill, because her messaging on this show is spectacular. And like CJ says, if we're gonna have any person who represents RBN and be the spokesperson for RBN, it definitely would be Sabby Sabs. Like, she's definitely a professional. And this clip gonna show you why. Let's play it.
the nerve of Joe Biden to appear at a black church after he has reneged on the promises that he made to the black community when he ran for president in 2020. He has some gall, but we can't be mistaken. Jim Clyburn is sitting there right next to Joe Biden, almost as a sidekick, so to speak. And Jim Clyburn bears the responsibility of some of this as well, because he was the one that told his constituents to support Joe Biden in 2020, because Joe Biden was going to deliver for the African-American community. I actually graduated from the University of South Carolina, but I didn't grow up in South Carolina. So I never really understood the admiration for someone like Jim Clyburn. People would say to me, it's because he hosts a fish fry. You can fry your own fish. This just goes to show you how little we are willing to settle for in the black community. We need to start asking these leaders, some of the black leaders, what are they doing for the community today? And Jim Clyburn is not doing much for the community today. His district is one of the poorest districts in the country. Meanwhile, Jim is living just fine. So I think people like him have led us down this path. They've had us continue on the same path that we've been doing for the past couple decades, which is why we haven't received any type of progress when it comes to politics in this country. Now, in reference to Simone Sanders, we have to remember Simone Sanders was Joe Biden's senior advisor when he was running for president for 2020. She was hoping that she would get that press secretary gig. That didn't pan out for her. He gave that to Jen Psaki instead. And it almost seems like they gave her an MSNBC position kind of to just quiet her for so much of a bit. But this is Simone Sanders' job. She is still supposed to carry weight for the Democratic Party, to carry weight for Joe Biden, to defend him at all costs. And when she makes this statement that she's more concerned about the protesters that confronted Joe Biden, I'm more concerned about genocide, Simone. I'm more concerned about our tax dollars being spent to fund these wars abroad. I'm more concerned about the fact that the Democratic Party till this day refuses to give any type of real concessions to the African-American community. Those are the things that Simone Sanders should be upset about, but she's not. She's trying to make sure she holds her spot at MSNBC.
Well said, Sabby Sabs. Well said. So this is pure desperation because, like Clyburn said, Democrats are struggling with the black community vote. And then to have Biden be invited to the black church, this was a big moment for the black church to pull those disaffected black voters back to the Democratic Party. And then they have protesters remind the black people that this person that's speaking at this event is responsible for funding genocide and apartheid. Horrible moment for Joe Biden. That's why the liberal establishment was so desperate to try to spin this as some sort of example of Palestinian activists and the far left being insensitive to the black church. Once again, sincerely, every single one of those person that you in that talking point is disgusting because they're using my community in order to shield for a genocide. And if I was religious, I would be even more pissed off because they would be using my religion to shield for a genocide. Which, well, I don't understand why people allow the black church to get away with what they get away with, because they've been selling out our people for a long time. They use their clout to endorse sellouts like Jim Clyburn, Eric Adams was prompted by the black church. All these people who are they are loyal to Wall Street, real estate developers, and the military industrial complex. The black church endorsed those people often over progressive candidates. They even endorsed neoliberal candidates over, like, quote unquote Bernie progressive style candidates. They university come out against candidates who don't support healthcare, pro-war. They've been doing this my entire life. One of the things that ruined their legitimacy with them, with me, I should say. So another thing that was a grave sin that I think more people need to talk about was this black church invited Genocide Joe to their holy temple, their holy place, and allowed him to lie in front of the presence of God. Oh, no, I'm just imitating how I think religious people talk. In the house of God, they allowed this man to lie. So in the church speech, and he has done this multiple times. He has done this earlier before, where he says that he was a member of the black church and started the civil rights movement. So not only do you go to a black church and show up and lie to people for votes, the black church leaders allowed this guy to come, the genocidal maniac, to come here, and we're going to shield him for a genocide. And not only that, we're going to allow this racist genocidal maniac who was a segregationist stand in front of us in the presence of God and lie. What's more disrespectful than this? So if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, here's the clip where Biden is lying about his history and claiming that he was a civil rights activist. Listen to this.
I was talking downstairs. I've spent more time in the Bethel AME Church in Wilmington, Delaware, than I have than most people I know, black or white, have spent in that church. Because that's why I started no, I'm serious. I started a civil rights movement. I used to go to 7.
I'm serious. I started the civil rights movement. And the lie is so aggressive. He said, I spent more time in the black church than not only most white people. He said, I spent more time in the black church than most black people. Pastor, you seriously going to allow this person to stand in the house of God and lie to your people and then tell people not to protest them? Absolutely absurd. Let's play that part again.
Than I have than most people I know, black or white, have spent in that church. Because that's why I started no, I'm serious. I started a civil rights movement. I used to go to 7:30 Mass, and I'd go to 10 o'clock service with the Reverend who was then running the church, is now the bishop. She's a bishop, and I'm told your bishop had been there before in South Africa. See, that's where he is right now. The point is that I've been blessed to worship here before as well.
How is it not worse than Trump? The New York Post, obviously, like a Republican website, because the Democrat media is not going to talk about this. Black media is not going to talk about this. They said I was going to tap dance for him. But this is Joe Biden in the church lying about the civil rights. Pastors just allowing it to happen. Biden repeats civil rights whopper in desperate re-election bid. This is not the first time he told his story, too. And this is Biden. This is old Biden debunking this psychopath, this lying psychopath. Look at this video here.
Suburbanite kid who
I've spent more time in the Bethel AME Church in Wilmington, Delaware, than I have than most people I know, black or white, have spent in that church. Because that's why I started no, I'm serious. I started a civil rights movement.
I was not an activist. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else. I was a suburbanite kid who got a dose of exposure to
That's back in the day where Joe Biden was forced to drop out in the race because he was caught lying so much, caught plagiarizing. But now the media don't really care about that kind of stuff. Look, this is the guy that claimed that he grew up in the black church and been in the black church more than most black people been.
Come on, clap your hands, all you people. Tell us to God with a voice of Christ.
He looks so comfortable.
Come on, the power of the Lord is here.
He like, what am I supposed to do with my hands? He's like, what do I do with my hands, fam? This is clearly the person that grew up in the black church and been in the black church more than other people. So the black church allowed this guy to pretend that he was standing against white supremacy as he's supporting a genocide. You had them allowing him to lie about the civil rights movement. One of the reasons why I continue to call these people out, this is the black leadership class that continue to lead us off a cliff. How is this psychopath not worse than Trump? This guy who just lied for no reason. Because that's what they tell you about Trump. Trump is just a unique liar. That would make him so uniquely evil compared to someone like Jim Crow Joe, right? And even Biden staffers are not happy about his policy. And they show you about the tyrannical nature of Joe Biden. There have been a lot of conversation about how in the Biden administration, there's a lot of internal dispute. And no matter how much people try to move Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken, they won't budge. Oh, the guy who was such a hardcore Zionist, he was to the right of Ronald Reagan on Israel's indiscriminate bombing of Lebanon in the 80s. The guy who has been the most pro-Israeli senator for decades. Well, I would say he's 10 out of 10. And when I say that, I mean, you can't beat 10 out of 10. Lindsey Graham, John McCain, all these other people, you know what I mean, are the most hardcore Zionists. That's Joe Biden. You don't get more hardcore than him. Now these people who put Israel-Palestine as their secondary issue, they now realize that there's no such thing as the lesser to evil. So look at this headline. Scoop, Eternal State Department memo blasts Biden. U.S. policy on Israel-Hamas war. So we already seen this conversation. Because not only is there a massive amount of black and brown people who are leaving the Democratic Party because of Joe Biden's genocidal policy, you have Democratic voters who are upset. The people who work for Joe Biden who don't want their legacy to be supporting one of the most brutal butchers in American history, Joe Biden and Blinken. And I want to just read a little bit of this here because that was the memo we reported on a few weeks ago. Now, this is the Guardian, even more corporate media report on this. What's even more extraordinary about this is the fact that we had Biden staffers who went outside of the White House to protest Biden. When they did so, they had to wear a mask, though. They had to conceal their identity because we live in a authoritarian fascist government that do not apply the principles that they claim they do. You had Biden, the tyrant, that if you work for him and you come out against genocide, there's a good chance you will be fired and blacklisted from Washington, D.C. So they had to cover the face off so they won't get fired and blacklisted. Aren't the Democratic Party nice? I'll just read a little bit of this. Extraordinary. Biden administration staffers growing dissent against Gaza policy. An education department official resigned this week, and 17 staffers sent an unanimous letter calling for a ceasefire. Dissent inside the Biden administration over the president's Gaza policy is growing, with a public resignation this week of a Department of Education official and a letter signed by more than a dozen Biden campaign staffers calling for a ceasefire and conditioning of aid to Israel And Josh Paul, he's a career official working in the State Department arms sales who resigned in protest because of Biden. That's the guy who resigned in October. He says pretty extraordinary the level of dissent. I am hearing in recent weeks from people who are thinking more seriously about resigning. Fam, we just getting started. So we have the first few people who took the plunge. We have people writing letters, wanting to protest. But now, after seeing the first few people take a plunge, you have more and more people that are more likely to resign, and that would be extremely embarrassing. Now, think about what they say about our democracy. Because remember, Joe Biden claims that he's here to save our democracy. But you have the majority of people in his own party, the majority of voters who are for a ceasefire. Not only the majority of the voters are for a ceasefire, you have people in your own State Department speaking out. And despite all these voices coming out and begging you to change your policy, he says no, he won't. And there's nothing that you can do about it. Doesn't democracy feel so strong in this country? This is the system that people defend. This is capitalist dictatorship. AIPAC, Zionists, and Israel bought off our politicians. They've been bought off Joe Biden, and people think they have a democracy. So, in the light of this mutiny, do Joe Biden have a plan to win his staffers back because they see that they're working for a genocidal maniac? What is Joe Biden's plan to win over these people that's questioning his policy? Breaking. The Biden administration to throw morale booster party. They're going to throw a party. Throw a morale booster party for staff amid renewed internal backlash over Israel. So, hey guys, I know you guys are feeling a little bummed out about the kids we're fucking killing. But hey, anyone want to throw a pizza party? Pizza party! Pizza party! Forget about the kids. Let's get a piñata. You feeling frustrated about our policies? Take it out on the piñata. This is liberalism in a nutshell. Pizza party. Oh, man. So I think that was funny. I think I can end this segment here. I got one more quick segment I want to do for tonight. So Joe Biden plans on tackling the people in the staff that is upset by throwing them a party. Can't write this shit. So Zionism is becoming deeply unpopular, and as I mentioned before, this is like a genocide that being live streamed that people can see in public. So the control of the flow of information is extremely important, and I would never let people kind of forget this. Because I remember a ton of people that was pretending that Elon Musk, you know, the guy who has contracts with the Pentagon and the military industrial complex, they thought that this guy was going to stand up for free speech. And this is the tweet that I've been trying to tell people about. As people were just going with the vibe, people were like, yeah, Elon Musk is fine for free speech. A lot of people doing for likes and retweets. A lot of people wanting to be part of the Elon Club. At RBN, we was like, all these people that are telling you that Elon Musk is a free speech warrior, like Tucker Carlson, like Jones, like that one. You got all these right-wing people that, especially Fox News, Alex Jones. I don't know why I blanked on his name. Alex Jones, Tucker Carlson, all these people. They were pretending that Elon Musk was anti-imperial, was some sort of anti-establishment free speech warrior. Meanwhile, we explained to you guys that he was a billionaire that was trying to take advantage of this new marketing ploy, to take advantage of the right-wing new interest in the free speech. And I've been telling people that if you think Elon Musk taking over Twitter will stop socialist and anti-imperialist voices from being censored, you're out of your mind. If you guys think that, yeah, I think Jackson Hinkle was one of them. I was sparring with Jackson a little bit earlier today under the light of Elon banning a lot of accounts. He folded to a lot of pressure because his hypocrisy was being called out. He unbanned a lot of the accounts. He didn't unban the account we about to talk about up next, though. I told you guys, especially a guy who's taking contract for the military industrial complex, he will never stand for your free speech because that's where free speech ends. White America was pretending that wokeism was a threat to free speech. No, it was always Zionism. It was Zionism from day one. That's why I kept telling people. You was a clown if you believe someone who had contracts with the military industrial complex would stand for free speech. You had Elon Musk that was providing Starlink for the Nazis in Ukraine. He literally supporting the Nazis in Ukraine by providing a free business service, but people think he was anti-establishment. And you had Facebook, Meta, all these social media sites that are censoring on behalf of Zionism. So the establishment had to get Elon Musk, and they quickly did. It took Benjamin Netanyahu inviting Elon Musk to Israel and giving him some bullshit PR tour. They posted all over Twitter. So Elon Musk used his platform to provide PR for a genocidal maniac that even their own country hate, Benjamin Netanyahu. So Elon was allowing people to spread ideas, and then Israel came. They invited him to do a tour, and then all of a sudden, X has been captured by the Zionists, like all the media has been captured by the Zionists. So and this is why I say that you had a lot of people that was banned who've been reinstated after much pressure, which shows the direction that Twitter and the tendency of the people running Twitter is. But the account that wasn't unbanned was this Hamas account. You had Hamas that created a Twitter account, and that was gaining. They gained like 160,000 followers in like a day. It was crazy the amount of people that were following this amount of Hamas account. But despite that, you had Elon Musk that banned this Hamas account with no explanation. And despite all the people that he unbanned, he's still adamant on keeping this Hamas account banned because it was getting this insane amount of support. It made it an insane amount of followers. So look at this here. Free speech absolutist Elon Musk explains his decision to ban Hamas X account. This was a tough call, he says. This was not a tough call. They got an order from Israel to ban Hamas on Twitter because they have to control the flow of information. And in order to control the narrative about Hamas, they had to, you can't hear from them. They tell you what Hamas is. If Hamas is allowed to tweet and allowed to share information to the public that is not censored, they won't be able to control the flow of information. That's why this Qassam account was immediately banned. So Jackson Hinkle is one of the few people who can get a reply out Elon. Elon avoids me like the plague on Twitter. But good for Jackson for calling him out here. Let me get up here. He said, why was Hamas X account banned if the Israeli terrorists are allowed to keep theirs? Which is the obvious card, because what they will say is that we can't have a terrorist organization have a Twitter account. There's no bigger terrorist organization than Israel, than the United States. So this is Elon Musk being a Zionist asset. Now listen to his explanation, which is beyond parody. That's why I want to go to the direct source, because it came from Jackson calling out Elon, which is a lot of media don't want to talk about. Elon had to reply to Jackson because his Twitter account has blown the fuck up. He got like 2.3 million followers. Jackson does now. It's crazy, and the amount that he's boosted on the algorithm is insane. So Elon has to reply. This was a tough call. While many government leaders, including in the USA, do call for killing people, we have a UN exception rule. If a government is recognized by the UN, we will not suspend their accounts. Hamas is not recognized as a government by the UN, so was suspended. So to show you guys how Elon Musk is a Zionist asset and someone who is censoring on behalf of the Israeli government. Even if you kill people, even if you are a terrorist state, they will allow you to stay if you're recognized by the UN. But the UN does not recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization. So based on your logic, where the UN apparently decides who gets free speech or not, said the free speech absolutist, the guy who believed that the people they describe as the globalists should be able to tell you I should have free speech. That's his argument. So I'll read Jackson's response here. I understand the rule, but I don't understand why it's only being applied to Palestinian accounts. Here are a few examples of pro-Israeli accounts that have not been held accountable for violating the same rule. So here are a few accounts, including Laura Loomer, that psychopath, calling for genocide. Many of these examples. One person saying flattening everything. Bethany, this is the famous tweet where she said, "Not nuking these fucking animals, the only restraint I expect." So she's calling for nuking everyone in Gaza. These people still have an account. So let's see what Elon responses to that. Trying to make sure I get back up. Oh, come on. Can't go back. Man, phone, this is a pain in the ass. Let me pull this back up. So this is Elon versus Jackson Hinkle. I gotta put it up like this. I don't know why I lost it. Here it is. He said, in response to that, in general, suspension should be even-handed. Goddamn, why keep... Damn it. I don't know why the hell it keep going away. He said, in general, the suspension should be even-handed. Here it is. In general, suspension should be even-handed. We are also very reluctant to have permanent suspensions. So people should expect a series of temporary suspensions that become longer rather than instant permanent suspensions. That does not answer the question at all. That doesn't answer the question at all. So he dodges here, and Jackson is destroying him here. I think it's a good policy to not permanently suspend accounts. Was the Hamas account Qassam permanently suspended? The UN, and this is what I mentioned, does not consider Hamas a terrorist organization, and they actually won in Gaza last parliamentary election. Explaining how they're a government. They are the government of Gaza. So it's absurd that Elon Musk is saying that Hamas is not a government recognized by the UN. They're terrorists, so we're going to ban them. But the UN don't acknowledge them as terrorists. But now this is where Elon Musk exposed himself as the Zionist asset that he is. Elon Musk says Hamas was calling for the extinction of Israel. Unlike Iran, which does the same, are not recognized as leaders of a country by the UN. So according to Elon Musk, the UN decides to give free speech. According to Elon Musk, Israel killing and bombing 12,000 kids is not a bad thing, but Hamas calling for their liberation is. So this tweet, which is getting racial to oblivion, exposes that Elon Musk is just straight up an Israeli asset that's spreading Israeli propaganda because he was given a tour by Israel. If you guys think the billionaire class is on your side, you are mistaken. I'll read the last tweet from Jackson. Did they call for the extinction of Israel on X? People are upset. Yeah, that's another thing. So if they call for the extinction of Israel on X, then technically you can ban them according to your terms of service. But they said generally they call for the extinction of Israel, so we can't allow them on the platform. But you guys allow Zionists who call for the genocide of the Palestinian people, and you guys don't ban them because you guys claim that it's not on the platform. There are people that still believe that Elon Musk is fighting on behalf of free speech. Ever since he did that tour in Israel, he was on the side of the establishment, like I told people. So you had a lot of people that was calling Elon Musk out for this. Elon Musk made a mistake of replying to Jackson Elon Musk, he always avoid me like the plague. But so good stuff by Jackson by calling out Elon. But there's Elon being a Twitter asset. I think that last story today, we about 1 hour in. I'm gonna try to keep these about an hour. Thursday should be a good show. I want to do a solo show to cover a few of these things here. I'm going to have Keaton and from Due Dissidents. Our Due Dissidents brothers will be joining me on Thursday for Nick at Night. So we are live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So make sure you guys click the bell. Make sure you guys subscribe if you enjoyed the show, and make sure you guys tune in every night at this time for around an hour to 90 minutes of usually foreign policy, breaking news stories, usually lots of the cover. So I'll usually stream every Tuesday and Thursday. TJ did a great stream earlier today as well. Thursday, once again, I'm going to have Keaton from Due Dissonance. I don't think Russell's going to join. I think Russell's too busy hosting the Jimmy Dore show, which is crazy, right? Our friends at the Due Dissonance, we had them on Post Duopoly for a while. Now they're on the Jimmy Dore show, hosting Jimmy Dore, killing the damn game. Due Dissonance and Sabby, by the way, absolutely killing the game. Good to see our friends killing it. So they're going to be joining us on Thursday. So make sure you guys check out that. I think that's all I have for you guys today. I'm going to keep these more easily digestible streams for about an hour or so. Make sure you guys support the Patreon if you guys enjoy this. And I'll be back on Thursday. See you guys. Peace out.